Hey all, here OS Reviews. You're watching our video review of the Amazfit T-Rex Pro. This is a smartwatch that has a rugged design and appearance and sells for under $180. That actually makes it relatively affordable if you're comparing it with other rugged watches on the market. Huawei, for example, has the equivalent, which is the Honor Watch GS Pro that came out earlier in the year and sells for over $250. So this one here is almost $100 less expensive. In fact, the price here is actually almost identical to their standard circular smartwatch, the Amazfit GTR2, and it's a matter of, do you like this design and aesthetic, and do you need something that has added endurance and resistance to weather elements? So this one here has 10 ATM for waterproofing. That means you can actually dive underwater up to 100 meters and it will still survive. The original TX from last year had a 5 ATM rating, and this time it's going to be shockproof, it's going to be drop proof, extreme temperature proof, saltwater proof, the list just goes on and on. Other upgrades that you can't really tell from a design perspective, but underneath the hood, there are some new sensors. Now has an SpO2 blood oxygen monitor, which is pretty useful, and there's also now over 100 different workouts that you can track and monitor versus under 20 on the original. So this gives you everything underneath the sun when it comes to even super niche activities that you can more closely monitor and see how many calories you're burning, your heart rate as you're performing those sports. Furthermore, this watch also comes with upgraded GPS. All of the smartwatches from Amazfit so far has supported 2 satellites, that is GPS plus GLONASS, which is the most typical 2 satellites, but this particular model can connect up to 4 satellites, including Beidou as well as Galileo. So it has a wider range of satellites that it can get a signal to. So for folks that thought that the accuracy of the GPS in previous smartwatches weren't quite as good, this one here steps up the game. Although by default, the software still connects to 2 of the satellites at once, so you can play around and see which ones are the strongest in your area. But I would prefer to see another option in the future that allows us to connect to all 4. That would be even better, or some type of intelligent switching automatically would also be nice. So those are the big changes, including again SpO2, stress monitoring, as well as more workouts, as well as higher accuracy GPS that the T-Rex Pro brings. Now before we dive closer and taking a look at its performance, let's revisit the design lightly. So as a refresher, the screen here measures 1.3 inches diagonally. As a OLED panel, blacks are really inky and contrast is excellent. Same goes with brightness levels, and there is ambient light sensor built on in that can automatically adjust the brightness of the screen depending on if you're in an outdoor condition or indoors. And it has a 360 by 360 pixel resolution, consistent with the other smartwatches from them. The fact that they chose 1.3 inch size also means that the T-Rex Pro, although definitely is a chunky watch in terms of the width to accommodate the added durability and a larger battery, it isn't actually too large in terms of the surface area on the front, since there are other smartwatches like aforementioned from Huawei or Honor that has a 1.4 inch display. So as a result, for a rugged watch, I actually found this to still be quite comfortable when I was wearing it. It's by no means super lightweight. It actually weighs less than 60 grams, so more than the 32 grams of the GTR2, but also not as bad as some of the other chunkier smartwatches we've seen in the past, as well as the use of rubber and plastic materials that make it feel a bit lighter and very comfortable, surprisingly, on the wrist. This was not irritating, and unlike some other large watches, I didn't find it to be heavy either. I could still wear it comfortably, go to sleep in my day-to-day, and not really get in the way. It charges using a magnetic system that you can just pop on to quickly top it up. The battery, by the way, again, is one of the strongest selling points of the T-Rex series. The same thing is applicable here. It will last upwards of 18 days before you need to recharge it again, which is again very good considering I also wasn't putting it into the ultra power saving mode. That will further restrict some of the features and only record your step and sleep, but that can elongate the battery life to well over a month. Otherwise, the watch has crown keys on the left and the right sides, and part of that reason, as we saw in our unboxing video, is because you're able to navigate the entire watch just using these buttons if you don't want to use the touchscreen. This is a great use case as a rugged smartwatch because maybe your hands are occupied if you're hiking or if you're wearing gloves and the screen isn't responsive, since you're able to now navigate everything with up and down as well as select buttons on the sides. Now taking a closer look at the watch's OS, it's running on the same system powering all of Amazfit's smartwatches, which is proprietary. That means you aren't able to download as many third-party applications and push them over like on a Android Wear or Apple Watch. It's really focused on basic sports tracking and giving you the utilities which are baked in that you see in the list here at the moment. And Amazfit calls it RTOS. The interface has gone through a slight update though compared to their other smartwatches. Like if you're used to the GT-R2, you'll know that the navigation system composes of a series of widgets that you can cycle around to access the various features, compared to on the T-Rex series, we can swipe over to the right and that brings up a full list of applications instead, so we don't get that carousel view anymore. But if we drag up, we can still access some cards that displays quick information at a glance, and you can see this information from here, but it's not separated into distinct screens. You can still drag down to access the quick shortcuts, things like a flashlight that turns the entire display white, and there's also access to the do not disturb mode, eco-saving mode, and jumping into the settings, as well as some more details on the current weather conditions around you. That information, by the way, is synced over from the phone using Bluetooth 5.0. Now, if we take a closer look at some of the features here now, beginning with the step count, overall I found the pedometer here to be pretty accurate, just like most Amazfit smartwatches these days. You're able to see calories burned and how many times during the day you were active, and if anything, it is quite similar to the sensors they use on the GT-R2, which is not a bad thing. So if you shake the watch, it's not going to count it as a step, but sometimes if I walk 100 steps, it would say 95 or 98 steps. There's also a weather widget that gives you access to some basic stats like your wind, even the sunrise, sunset time, as well as the conditions for the next few days ahead, which is pretty neat. This is more detail, for example, than the original T-Rex from last year. And then the heart rate accuracy is very good. Like most smartwatches these days, I didn't really find it to be problematic. It will also tell you the time that you're spending in terms of different zones, whether you're warming up, you're relaxed, or fat burning. It will also map this continuously and tell you your resting heart rate. Finally, there is the new sensor, SpO2, blood oxygen monitoring, and this is tied to how well you're breathing. Do you get enough oxygen in your blood? However, this is not a continuous sensor, so it will only measure if you're sitting still, and it takes about 30 seconds to get a measurement. However, this watch does not have a body temperature monitor like the Amazfit GT-R2e that we saw recently. Now here is the always-on display mode, so you can see because it is an OLED screen, after a few seconds of inactivity, it will show a reduced animation, but you can still glance anytime to see what the time is underneath. Also new to the T-Rex Pro is a series of additional pages that tells you your training as well as recovery time. So say right now I go outdoor and I do a 1-mile run. After I perform that activity, it will tell me the number of hours it takes my body to actually rest and recover. It's all estimated using software, but still a neat stat. Now what's further new to the T-Rex Pro is the ability for it to automatically detect certain workouts, basic ones like running and walking, and it can start to track those for you without even going into the settings, which is also a feature that's intelligent and not found on the original T-Rex. So here's an example of a walking session that I was testing out earlier, and it was able to measure stats like your step count, your cadence, your stride length, calories burned, heart rate zone, as well as a heart rate map, speed diagram, and again, if you're outdoors, your GPS route. It will then save and sync that information to your phone, which we'll take a closer look at later on in this video. The overall fluidity of the UI, by the way, is also decent. It is responsive enough to use that it doesn't get annoying or anything like that. You'll see some occasional jumpiness, but like most smartwatches, even Android Wear watches will counter that. At the very least, it does feel good enough, I would say, for a 2021 smartwatch. A few other extras on here that we can take a look at include the ability to set alarms directly from the watch, and it will vibrate to give you notifications. This brings us to some omissions on the T-Rex Pro, one of them being that there is no speaker or microphone, so you can't answer phone calls or play back music directly on this unit. And one other thing here is the built-in memory is only used for the sports tracking as well as adding new watch faces. You can't use the memory for storing music on the watch directly like an MP3 player. But again, not too surprising because this watch is pretty much still the same price as their other regular everyday smartwatches, so they had to make some compromises, and since they added more value in other areas like a bigger battery, more water resistance, and there's also a barometer or altimeter that can basically tell you how high you are, what's the air pressure currently, and this is also something new on the T-Rex Pro. Now if we take a closer look at the watch faces, you can long hold to adjust it, and it again shows shows off the vibrancy of the display, and we can go through some of the ones that you can find on here. Some of these watch faces can also be further customized. So if we tap on the icon down below, for instance, we can change that widget to show something else, like a sunrise, sunset time, pi score, number of steps. They all look pretty attractive, and they're all custom to the T-Rex Pro, different from the ones that you get from, say, the regular GT-R2, and some of them have a more sporty vibe. Overall, it's clean looking. Here's another one that has a ton of information, and we'll see a few more options when we visit the app. At the moment, it's around 30 watch faces I've seen from there, which is a little bit less than the regular GT-S2 and GT-R2, so that is one thing to keep in mind. Switching the background to black here just to show off the contrast of the screen just a little bit more. So now we get to some of the custom watch faces after this one. So these are some images that I pushed over from my own photos that I took with my phone. So you can see this one here can be quite simple, but if you want to add a photo of your family or your own favorite images, you can use that as a dial. So here's the companion app Zep. It is very quick to sync, and it will show you stats at a glance. This also brings us to two things that the T-Rex Pro doesn't have that I didn't mention earlier. One of them is it will automatically track your sleep intelligently, also including tracking naps during the day, and it will tell me that I slept for 30 minutes during the day. So it will detect this automatically, and it's pretty accurate for sleep tracking, just like all of their current generation wearables. However, you can't see the number of hours that you've slept directly from the watch's widgets. You have to see this information from the phone. I do wish they can also add this into the list of options, just as a quick note. And then the second thing the T-Rex Pro omits is a function called Breadcrumb Tracking. That is a feature that you do get in the more expensive Huawei Honor watch. It will tell you how to get back to your original starting location if you activate that feature. So using the GPS, basically, it will help you retrace your path back to point A if you've gotten lost or wandered off of the road, which is pretty neat. It's just a software feature since the hardware of this already has GPS, but it is not a function that you get at the moment. The breadcrumb, aka routing back, which I do think would be pretty valuable to have on a rugged outdoor watch. That is one difference that, again, the Honor watch has. However, again, you can see the Honor watch GS Pro, for being $100 more expensive, still only has dual satellites. So again, really good hardware. They just need to add a little bit more to the software experience, and then it would be just incredible value. The app is quite simple, as we talked about in their previous smartwatch reviews, but as a whole, it will give you quick stats at a glance and tell you things like how you are comparing versus the week and previous months as well. And you'll be able to see, again, the more detailed stats from exercise sessions like runs and walks over on the companion app in more detail and clarity. Again, the accuracy of the GPS being very good and getting a lock almost instantly, at least for me, when stepping outside in the suburbs of Seattle. As with any GPS tracker, though, it might not be accurate to the nearest inch, but certainly within a feet or two, you'll get the same overall distance and results if you measured it. So quite good. Now, under your device settings, you can also take a look at turning on certain features, activating other widgets, setting up other alarms, allowing different sources to give notifications to the watch, and finally the store, which I talked about, showing you guys the current list of watch faces that you have available at the moment, which again are all pretty attractive and hopefully will grow as the popularity of the watch does and they push out some more updates down the road. Alright, so that is more or less it as far as our review of the Amazfit T-Rex Pro. Again, they're a rugged smartwatch, but in this case, it's actually not adding a premium in terms of price for something that has enhanced battery life, as well as better GPS tracking for the hardware, and also a slightly updated interface as well, all at a relatively good price. Very competitive, I have to say, versus, say, Garmin. For something that has similar military specifications and weather resistance, you'll have to spend at least $100 to $200 more. Gets the essentials right, which is, again, giving you great battery life and great sports tracking with high accuracy. And so if that's what you're looking for, this will be a great fit to take a closer look at. So you can check out more details if you're interested in the links below. For now, that's been our video. Thanks for watching. That's been the Amazfit T-Rex Pro.